Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the JCG Show. Jesus Christ, glorious channel. Remember, don't be a hater, love thy neighbor. Come on, guys, let's get into it. Let's make this happen. We're going to start off on this part one again, and we're going to start from the beginning on this part right here, because what this woman has to say is very important, and it is truth that you need to hear. And hopefully, hearing it from enough people, you'll be able to wake up and realize what's going on. That I ain't the only one talking about this. Here we go.
Option. It's not some political term or even a religious one. It's if we die, we'll make sure no one survives. That's the plan Israel's whispering about. The plan that we pay for. So, okay, just real quick recap. Israel built nukes, right? They didn't sign the usual treaties and they kept everyone guessing. But that guessing, that was power. And in 1973, they put their forces on alert and threatened us. And suddenly the US had weapons traveling across the ocean. That's like a bully taking your money and then still giving you a swirly. What? Nobody had to press a button. The threat did the work, and that's the whole playbook. The dirty playbook. So don't let pundits hide behind this strategic talk rhetoric. No, because if a Samson-style strike actually happens, it's going to be kids in classrooms. It's going to be nurses in hospitals, market sellers, grandmothers cooking dinner, refugee kids in camps, the poor, the sick, the ones with no exit. Do you hear me? Then the fallout rides the wind, right? We'll see the destruction of villages, cities, farmers' fields, and neighboring countries. You want a list? Call it everyone who had nothing to do with the politics and everything to do with just surviving. That's who's gonna pay. So why keep this lunatic option? Fear brings friends running with weapons, with medevac flights, with diplomacy. Because the Holocaust memory is real and it's used as a shield. Because the region is messy, full of proxies, and ambiguity is cheap leverage. Because they don't sign the treaty that would tie their hands. It's not noble, it's transactional. And the US bankrolls that system that makes that posture credible. We authorize the aid, we veto the UN moves. We sell the parts. When you hand someone the tools and the political cover and then tell them that we're allies, don't act shocked when they hold the world at gunpoint. Our money buys the credibility that makes the threat stick. So yeah, the Samson option is real. It's named after a man who pulled a temple down, killed himself, and took his enemies with him. And we help keep that temple standing. We help keep the ropes in place. We pay for the ladder. So say it with me. We funded the threat. And when that threat is used, who do you think pays the bill?
Could Barron Trump, President Trump's youngest son...
All right. Hold up, dog. Hold up. Samson is a character from the Bible. It's a story of a man that basically, it's where the story of the Hulk came from. He had the strength of 100 men, according to the Bible. And as long as his hair was not cut, his strength stayed that way. Nobody could defeat him. Nobody could kill him. Nobody could do anything to him. Because he was untouchable. Because he was under divine protection and had divine strength. Gifted by God. And the Philistines wanted him dead because they couldn't take over because he was there. So they paid a woman 5,500 silver in order to find out what his secret was so that they could take him out. And he eventually was fooled by her fake love for him and said, fine, I'll tell you my secret. And he told her about how all she had to do was cut his hair. And then she went and told the Philistines about it. And she said, let me get my money, let me get my money. I want me, myself, and I taken care of. Let me get that money. Greedy, greedy, greedy. She got that money. And, well, they locked him up, made him work like a slave. He was as weak as a doll. He was as weak as everybody else until his hair grew back and he repented to God and said, Father, please forgive us. We're so sorry. Forgive me, I'm so sorry, and stuff like that. Give me the strength one more time to take out these guys. Even if I have to die with them, give me the strength, and I will do this for you. And my life will be glorious to the kingdom. And that's what he did. He took them pillars and he said, ah! Took down every one of them government officials. And all the evil people that thought they were just going to rule the world. All at one time, baby. all at one time. All right. Now, this guy right here, I've seen a lot of pictures of antichrists and whatnot. I'm not saying that dude fits the bill, but if the Bible prophecy is correct, this treaty is not really a treaty. And the countries that we signed it with are not going to keep that treaty in place. They're going to break it at, what was it, the 3.5 marker? The 3.5 year marker, and then the deception of peace that they sold y'all is going to turn into a dictatorship, which it's already turning into a dictatorship. And y'all just letting it ride. All right. Let's see what the rest of this fantastic video holds for us today. We got about 30-something minutes worth of video. Let's check it out.
And land a major role at one of the most influential apps in the world, TikTok. So Jake Advent, who's Trump's former social media manager, recently told the Daily Mail, quote, "I'm hopeful President Trump will consider appointing his son, Barron, and maybe other young Americans to TikTok's board to help ensure it remains an app young people want to keep using." Barron's currently a sophomore at NYU, and he's attending classes at the university's DC campus. And yes, he's now back living in the White House. But even as a student, Barron played a surprisingly instrumental role in his father's 2024 presidential campaign. President Trump has called Barron a key connection to Gen Z, crediting him with helping the campaign reach younger voters in ways traditional media like television just can't. According to reports, Barron encouraged his dad to branch out beyond TV and legacy media, pushing for appearances instead on popular podcasts like Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn, which are moves that pull in massive online audiences. Even Melania Trump has said Barron was very vocal about how to connect with young people and that his advice had a real impact on youth support. And Trump's even said that his son might have a future in tech rather than politics or business. In an interview with Laura Ingraham earlier this year, Trump praised Barron's technical ability, and he told this story, quote, "I turned off his laptop. I go back 5 minutes later, he's got his laptop. I said, 'How'd you do that?' 'None of your business, Dad.' He's got an unbelievable aptitude in technology." This all comes as Trump recently signed an executive order to push forward a US-based takeover of TikTok. So under the deal, companies like Oracle, Silver Lake, and MGX would acquire a major stake, about 50% ownership, while TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, keeps a minority share. A new US board will run TikTok stateside, with 6 out of 7 members being American. That board will also have control, or at least oversight, over TikTok's powerful algorithm, aiming to curb foreign influence on content. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance even rejoined TikTok themselves in early October, just as the deal was gaining momentum. So could Barron Trump end up on TikTok's board? It's not confirmed, but the idea is definitely floating around. Let us know your thoughts below in the comments.
Can you remember when?
Of course.
Throw it as hard as you want. Go on. Watching it zip away feels like it might just keep going, right? Nope, here it comes. This thing's a total game changer. Throw it.
Let us know your thoughts below in the comments.
By the way, those things are actually kind of cool. You can play with it inside the house. You can play with it outside. You know what I'm saying? It gives you something to do to get away from your video games and TV for a little bit. And it's pretty awesome, man. It's pretty cool. Let's keep going.
Can you remember when, and I'm sure you can, when Donald Trump said this?
I just say it again. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it.
Tylenol, don't take it. He made it very clear. And days after that announcement, we saw a number of videos of crazy women posting like this.
You know what I'm going to take? Some Tylenol, acetaminophen. It's going to work like a charm, and my baby won't have autism.
Which is absolute ludicrous. We then see a nurse post out a video to say that a woman had been called into the hospital at 4 a.m. in the morning for overdosing on Tylenol, and she now has liver failure and she was going to die.
Very frantic call at 4 o'clock in the morning from a husband whose wife is now dying of liver failure on a ventilator in an ICU because she was trying to prove that Tylenol doesn't cause autism because of what Trump said on the news. Mind you, that's a Harvard study. Now, what?
So the message was very serious. Well, Donald Trump has just had his cabinet meeting, and RFK Jr. shares some more data.
The level of Trump derangement syndrome has now left the political landscapes, and it is now in the realm of pathology. There are 15 rodent studies. Every one of them shows if you give it to the mother, the babies, particularly the male babies, have profound neurological and behavioral changes.
Listen to what he says here about Cuba.
There are dozens of studies that show that countries that use the high levels. Cuba has the highest with the lowest level in the world of acetaminophen use, and it has the lowest autism rate in the world.
You can see the craziness that people do all they can just because it's Donald Trump, and they put the welfare of their child and their family at risk because they just don't want to listen. Now start paying attention to what RFK Jr. shares here in the recent studies to show that children that have
What did he just say? Because you people don't want to listen. That was another test of the devil to see if you would go against authority. And that was a type of authority that kind of mattered at the moment. Because if Harvard said it was bad, last I checked, super smart people come out of Harvard, bro. Why are all of you committing suicide? Because of something that Trump said that was a fact? Bro. And that's exactly why the 3 days of darkness are going to happen, because it happened in the past, and what makes you think it's not going to happen again? What makes you think that the 10 plagues are not and have not happened all the way up to the 7th plague again, even when it happened in front of your face? It snowed, it hailed, and before that, it was fire everywhere, people. Come on, wake up. So when this earthquake hits America and wherever else it goes, yep, we'll see. We'll find out if all of us young people and older people that are telling you about this crap that's coming were wrong. Because the 3 days of darkness are going to come. Because we're just letting the devil walk all over you. I'm not part of that we. The devil ain't walking all over me, because I'm doing what God told me to do through the Holy Spirit. Through Jesus to the Holy Spirit, which is inside of me. And I'm preparing y'all for what's coming. But y'all don't seem to want to listen. You want to laugh at me and call me crazy and everything. Even though everything is happening right in front of your face. It's really sad, honestly. Like, you guys are literally giving them the power. They're not even having to do anything. I mean, the devil's sitting back in his chair right now laughing his butt off at idiots that are willing to just go against authority like that. They don't want to follow you, God. They want to follow me. Ha, 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 ha. Yeah. Yep. I wonder why. Well, let's keep going, guys. Let's keep going.
Circumcision early have double the rate of autism, and it's most probably because they're given Tylenol to help with the pain.
There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. And it's highly likely because they're given Tylenol.
So you can see the importance of paying attention to the professionals that are sharing this information, because they do not want to harm any more children. People are making these decisions based on stupidity, and we're seeing the outcomes from that.
This might surprise you, but I don't give a
Come on. Oh, snap.
I'm going to be going on to Whatnot to see how many Funko Pops I can buy with just $100.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Let me bid 8.
Decisions based on stupidity, and we're seeing the outcomes from that.
This might surprise you, but I don't give a the Purple Revolution. Not just this one, but any of the iterations of the Purple Revolution. I'm not really interested in blending 2 colors to make a third color. I'm leaning into the idea of localism.
Call me a localist, because that's where we can most intimately experience the benefits of a free society is in your local community. And the more we've trusted faraway shareholders and boardrooms and politicians to like protect our way of life and to build towards something better, our local communities have died. And I would say that we're a bit complicit in that too, in our quest for convenience. But localism to me does a handful of things. It not only builds up small businesses and returns this like cohesive networked glue between the people who live in this area, but it also is the opportunity for us to rebuild trust in this country. Right now, trust between citizens is, I would say, abysmal, non-fucking existent.
Please, God, don't go click on that nonsense and go watch these stupid people literally open packages and stuff. Don't get distracted. Stay with me now. Let's keep moving.
If you will, then fair enough, man. I get it. It's not a mystery to me as to why we don't trust one another in this country. The only way to undo it is the way that you would undo any relationship. You communicate and you show up and you prove yourself to someone the same way you would to a lover. Like, you don't just want to go and give your heart out to any old cutie. Some of us have tried that. It doesn't end well. You have to merit that person's trust and respect. And the way that we start to heal this country is by showing up and showing out and having fresh ideas and building these parallel systems that I talk about on my channel and so many other people around the world are talking about. That's where we get to prove it to one another that it's not like it was before. I'm not like those who came before me, and you're not like those who came before you. We're building new. This is our opportunity to rebuild that trust. Without it, we're just going to be a bunch of small and ineffective groups warring for some sense of control over the majority of people in the middle, the moderate middle. We're going to be warring over their influence. And meanwhile, billionaires become trillionaires and trillionaires become quadrillionaires. And that's just not a future that I want. So if the Purple Revolution is a stepping stone in that, if it folds more people into this way of thinking, I'm all about it. But we all know that there's a large percentage of them that next election season, they're going to go back to what feels cozy and safe for them. Propaganda's But as far as folding people into these ideas, some will, some won't. Who cares? Who's next? To me, this is a growing movement that's decentralized. There are no leaders. There's no stickers. This is just us encouraging people to go engage with the world around them. Because the more you see what your community is dealing with, the better your questions get. What do you need? What do you need that you don't have? What can you do? And who do you know that can help you do it? This is the way.
You know, it's funny that when a soldier returns home from a war zone and has trouble adjusting, they display erratic, often violent behavior, we think of them as a victim, right? We say they have PTSD. But when a civilian person is forced to leave their home, reduced to rubble in a war zone, maybe even the very same war zone, right? Maybe even at the hands of the very soldier in question. When that person has trouble adjusting, maybe even displaying erratic, violent behavior, that's not a victim anymore. Now it's a criminal, maybe even a terrorist, a person from an inferior culture, just incompatible with ours, unable to assimilate. Now, and to be clear, this is not a pro-immigration argument, mainly because pro-immigration versus anti-immigration is a conversation for stupid people, and I want no part of it. Migration is just a fact of human nature, right? It's the reason I am where I am right now. It's the reason you are where you are right now. Either you went there from somewhere else, or your ancestors went there from somewhere else. And one day in the future, your descendants will be wherever they are for the very same reason. Any non-fucking stupid people conversation about immigration is a logistics conversation. Not about whether it's good or whether it's bad. It's a conversation about how to mitigate or maybe even solve some of the issues associated with it in the current environment. And in politics, just like in life, you cannot properly solve a problem until you're willing to honestly assess the situation you're actually in. And you cannot honestly assess where you are unless you're willing to turn around and look behind you to see where you came from and how you got here. If you're only willing to start the conversation about a problem at the point at which the problem became an inconvenience to you personally, then you're not really trying to solve a problem. You're just trying to change a problem in a way that's more beneficial to you personally. Now that, in my opinion, is problem solving for people, even for the fundamentally selfish, because you're only going to create more problems that are going to be even more inconvenient, even for you, later down the road. That's where we came from, right? That's how we got here. Right now, people in the West are very concerned about migration coming from the global South. But these are people largely coming from places that we've destabilized, that we've colonized, that we've invaded. We invaded people and then taxed them heavily in order to make them repay the cost of their own invasion. We built the roads and the infrastructure that we needed to maintain our colonial power, and then we put them in debt to recoup the costs of that as well. We left power vacuums behind us to be filled by dictators, then we lent money to those dictators to go into their own pockets, and then we held the people accountable to pay back that debt as well. We forgave the debt and crowned ourselves as heroes, but we only forgave them under the conditions that they would adopt policies that suited our needs. Policies of deregulation and free enterprise that effectively lessened the powers of their government and increased the freedom and power of private companies. But of course, they had just got done being enslaved in colonies and then oppressed by a dictator and then buried under massive debt. So of course, they didn't really have giant, fully formed corporations beholden to their economy ready to fill that power vacuum. But you know who did? We did, trying to act like African child slaves mining minerals to build iPhones and Teslas for Western consumers isn't a direct result of this story is stupid. Acting like young Arab jihadis with extreme ideologies who saw their families blown to smithereens by Western missiles so Halliburton could extract oil and profit from fueling the Western machine isn't a direct result of this story is stupid. I agree. There are some problems associated with immigration, but if we're going to talk about it, we have to have the whole conversation. You don't get to start the conversation at the point where it became an inconvenience to you. We simply cannot afford to keep being this stupid.
Did you know you could be entitled to a 5 or 6 figure payout if you suffered a serious injury at work, like a broken bone, torn tendon?
Don't care either.
Not afford to keep being this stupid.
At this moment, both Israelis and Palestinians agree President Trump has made history.
I asked you to speak at the Knesset, and I've agreed to. If they would like me to, I will do it.
You can't make this up. Talk about premature celebration and spiking the ball right here. Of course, as expected, while the whole world is crying out peace and safety, peace and security, we can also see the call for Mr. Golden Dawn to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. But in my opinion, I believe that they should probably change that name to the Nobel False Peace Prize. But now, of course, time will tell. Now, back to my earlier statement that you just can't make this stuff up. Unbelievable. So, do you want to guess where this is going to be signed, this peace deal? Well, the deal is expected to be formally signed on Thursday, which is today, in the Red Sea Resort. You heard that correctly. And now let me just get this straight for a second and process all of this. So we have Israeli hostages, and there is a deal to be signed in the Red Sea Resort in Egypt to release Israeli hostages right in the middle of the Feast of Tabernacles. Oh yeah, and when are these hostages expected to be released? Well, as we can see right here, Mr. Golden Dawn says that he managed to end the war in Gaza and added that the hostages will be released Monday or Tuesday. Monday or Tuesday, you don't say. Which, of course, just so coincidentally, falls on the last great day of the Feast of Tabernacles, also known as Shemini Atzeret. What are the odds? Not to mention how the October 7th attack in 2023 also fell on the last great day of the Feast of Tabernacles. Truly unbelievable. Now, to add to this peace conversation, we also have Zelensky claiming how Ukraine will nominate Mr. Golden Dawn for the Nobel Peace Prize if he delivers Tomahawk missiles. Oh yeah, nothing screams Nobel Peace Prize like selling super expensive explosives. But this is the upside down world that we live in right now. Now we also have the price of silver hitting its highest in decades at over $50 an ounce. I'm sure that's good for the dollar. While we also continue to see the AI bubble continue to balloon up with NVIDIA prices surging to a record high market cap of $4.75 trillion. Coincidentally, we just had Deutsche Bank making this statement right here, how the AI bubble is the only thing keeping the U.S. economy together. Well, isn't that just so wonderful? Oh, it's just so awesome and lovely to know that the Antichrist intelligence bubble is keeping the U.S. economy roaring. It really helps me sleep at night. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but I wonder if Mr. World Peace has an idea of the possibility of some disruptions coming our way, maybe, apparently, because with this news right here, kind of makes you just wonder, right? Where apparently, allegedly, we have administration officials seriously discussing invoking the Insurrection Act. Oh, that sounds so peaceful. Oh yeah, and by the way, I almost forgot to add this one right here, but apparently, allegedly, Venezuela is preparing for a possible invasion by the US. Please, you need to remember, war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. You will obey. Moving right along into some more rainbows and butterfly happy news, as we can see right here, where I guess we have a coronal hole facing Earth. Enhanced solar wind could arrive in 3 days. Well, please don't get my hopes up. So there you have it, your little news recap for the day. I understand that some of you guys really enjoy these videos, try to bring some sense of humor, so I shall give the people what they want. But again, with that all being said, do not allow this information to cause fear, anxiety, stress. That's what the news agencies want to produce, fear-mongering, keep you in a state of fear because you are more easily controlled. Just grab your popcorn, guys. Enjoy the show. At this point, it's almost like entertainment. It is ridiculous. But through it all, we keep our eyes focused upon the Lord, understanding our identity, keeping the faith in Jesus Christ. Again, how are we saved, guys? Simple, childlike faith. We first need to acknowledge that we are sinners and that we need a Savior. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Therefore, we need a Savior. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, is our Savior, the Savior of the world. He lived the perfect life. He shed his perfect blood on the cross, was buried for 3 days, and then he rose on the third day to prove who he was, and that he can redeem you, and that we shall be resurrected likewise in the end, right? Faith, trust upon him, simple childlike faith. And then from there, it is a personal relationship with him, walking forward with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control with all humility. Yeah. So again, I love you guys all so much. There's a lot of other news out there. There's good news, okay? I'm just presenting to you guys the heavy hitters, things going on, things that are entertaining, and trying to bring some humor to it. And I hope you guys enjoy. But at the end of the day, the only thing that truly matters is this. Do you know Jesus Christ? Have you placed your faith and trust upon him? Have you been sealed with the Holy Spirit of promise for the day of redemption? That's what truly matters. And then go share it with others. Sharing.
All right. Let me throw some facts on y'all. The word says that if you lose your life for Jesus Christ, you will be saved. But if you try to save your own life and say, F thy neighbor, you ain't gonna be saved, bro. Because you acting like the rest of the world. That's the part that ain't coming out of this man's mouth. That means that you have to stand up and do something. You have to move forward for God to work through you. You have to do something for God to do something through you, to show some miracles through you. Okay? Plain and simple, guys. It's not hard, baby. Stop being scared of the man. And don't sit back and eat your popcorn like this dude's telling you. Because that ain't going to save nobody but yourself. And if you try to save yourself, you ain't really going to be saved. Because Jesus ain't going to come and get you. The devil's going to come and get you. But if you go out into the world and you do possibly end up dying for Christ, you go into heaven, baby. Just like that thief that was on the cross that defended him, that defended Jesus Christ and said, we deserve to be here. This guy's innocent. And he said, remember me when you enter your kingdom, Lord. And he said, and Jesus said, what? You will be in the kingdom with me. Right? Whew. Please share this with your family. Remember, we ain't trying to spread the hate, bro. But we are trying to love thy neighbor. So, let's make that happen, all right? Let's keep going.
The good news. God bless, guys. Love you all so much. And remember, the just shall live by faith.
I watched Trump's cabinet meeting today, so you don't have to. And here's my overview. We're going to start with the craziest thing that anybody said, which is that RFK Jr. says that they have 2 studies that show that children who are circumcised early have doubled the rate of autism, likely because they were given Tylenol. The meeting was about 70 minutes, and Trump mentioned Biden on 8 separate occasions. He starts off by signing a proclamation for Leif Erikson Day, and then a proclamation for Columbus Day. And the guy handing it to him says that Columbus was the first European to set foot on the New World, even though he literally just signed the Leif Erikson one, and Leif Erikson was the first European to set foot in the New World. But whatever, he doesn't care about that. He says that Columbus Day, we're back. Even though it's not been fully decided on yet, he says we solved the war in Gaza yesterday and that the hostages will be back on Monday or Tuesday, and that he's planning to travel over to Egypt. I'm just going to remind you all, this was not a war. It was just a genocide committed by the Israeli state. He says Hamas took 70,000 casualties and calls that big retribution, and then says that Gaza is going to be rebuilt due to the wealth that's just in the area. The president of peace said had he not bombed Iran, then they would have had a nuclear weapon today. He says he solved 7 wars. The one in Gaza is going to be the 8th war, again, just a genocide. He says the war in Ukraine would have never happened, but he thought it was going to be the easiest one to resolve, but that they should basically just end it because they're losing 7,000 soldiers a week. He says the radical left Democrats shut down the government and that Republicans are trying to pass a clean, nonpartisan bill. So again, I've mentioned this multiple times. While they control the House and the Senate and the White House, they are not able to pass any of the things in their agenda. It just has to be nonpartisan stuff. Apparently, they can't even get something done when they have control of all 3 branches of government.
You're not just getting annoying texts. Your data is being bought and sold repeatedly.
Their agenda, it just has to be nonpartisan stuff. Apparently, they can't even get something done when they have control of all 3 branches of government. He says Republicans have become the party of good healthcare and that they're going to reduce the cost of drugs by 100, 200, 300, 500%, and even more than that because we're in the process of becoming the most favored nation. He says that in his first term, he reduced the cost of drugs by 1/8 of 1%, and he was super proud of that. And then he thought about it and thought, that just makes no sense. And then he goes on this really long rant where he's saying that if other countries aren't just going to raise the prices of their drugs, then we're just going to tariff them to make up the difference, which again would just be Americans paying money because other countries refuse to raise the price of their drugs. He says drug prices weren't reduced before because there was never anyone in the office who knew what the hell they were doing, and that makes him very angry. I'm just going to remind you, he was president before. He doesn't remember that, but I'm just reminding you. He then immediately says that they're going to reduce drug prices by 100, 150, 200, 300, 400, and 500%, and that it's already starting to kick in. So just so you know, your drugs should start going down by over 100% very soon. When he met with the Pfizer CEO, he said that there are drugs in the US that cost $130, but in London you can get them for $10, and what we're going to do is we're going to work out a deal so that in London it's $18 and here it's going to be $18. Today he said that the drug in London costs $10 and here it costs $100, and the way that they're going to work out the deal is that we're going to pay $20 and London's going to pay $20. So he's just, again, completely just making up numbers. That was like less than a week ago. He says the economy we have now is blowing away the first administration's economy, and he says that no one understood tariffs, but now we have a bunch of money coming in from tariffs. I'm just going to remind you again, that is your money. He says again that Democrats are holding the government hostage due to this shutdown, even though again the Republicans control all 3 branches. And then he says, and this is a direct quote, "You have this AOC, I don't know her at all." He says that the big beautiful bill greatly reduced the taxes on everybody, even though it was mostly just the wealthy, and says that there's already no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. If someone can show me a pay stub that says that there are no tax on their tips, I will demonetize this entire account today. He says that the government stays closed, they're just going to shut down Democrat programs. I again have no idea what Democrat programs are, except for what Caroline Leavitt says, which is that they are any program that disagrees with the administration. And I put this in my notes, so I know it was bad. Marco Rubio, the whole time, you can just see on his face, he's like, will you please just shut up? Will you please stop talking? But he doesn't say anything. He just like kind of rolls his eyes and just like keeps looking around. I haven't brought this one up in a long time because it's so stupid that I don't bother to cover it whenever he says it, but he's been saying it a lot more recently, so I guess I might as well. He brings up winning 2,500 counties versus the 525 that Kamala Harris had, as if like a county right outside of New York City is the same as like a county in the middle of Wyoming. They are not equivalent, but he seems to think that each one of them holds its own equivalent value to the other one. He says that prices have been brought way down. I haven't seen it, but maybe you guys have. Let me know in the comments where your prices have been brought way down. He says that energy prices are way down and that gas is very soon going to be below $2 a gallon. He then says that there's no more boats in the water around Venezuela, not even fishing boats, and that every boat that he extrajudicially kills people on is worth 25,000 American lives. And then he says that Antifa is a terrorist group that is out of control in many places, but really it's mostly just in Portland. So I guess Antifa is centered in Portland, which might be why I just thought of it as an idea and not actually a group. Apparently they're all in Portland. Pam Bondi speaks speaks next, and she says that in Memphis they have ATF, DEA, FBI, U.S. Marshals, Park Police, Treasury officers, Homeland Security officers, and the National Guard. She also says that they arrested one child predator, I guess, and that everything that they've done in Memphis was worth it for just that one arrest. So spending millions and millions of dollars per arrest is worth it to our Attorney General. Very efficient. Then we go back to Trump. He says that Democrats want men and women's sports, transgender for everyone, and now the new one that he's adding to the list is that Democrats want crime and Republicans stop crime. Trump then says we have record recruitment numbers for every branch of the military and every police department in the country and every fire department in the country. I guess he just doesn't know about how many people signed up for the U.S. military after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. We're 5.5 minutes in. I'm really going to try and fit this in 10 minutes so you can get all of this information in one go. Kristi Noem is next because these people really know how to save the American taxpayer money. She says that they're going to be buying more buildings in Chicago to operate out of. She also says that she met with the Oregon governor, the Portland mayor, the chief of police, and the superintendent of the highway patrol, and that they're all lying and disingenuous people. She says as soon as you leave the room, they request the exact opposite thing, but doesn't explain what that means. She also says that the politicians are more afraid of anarchists in the streets than they are of the politics, and that's why they don't want federal troops brought in. Back to Trump, he says that Portland is full of anarchists and that Scott Besson is going to figure out how they're all being funded. Rubio's back up next, and he doesn't say much of import, but he does say that the agreement that they made between Israel and Palestine is going to, quote, make it possible for Gaza to be normal again.
Simple. I only pay $10 a month for my internet connection. Fast, unlimited, anywhere.
Have you heard about Ryoko?
To, quote, make it possible for Gaza to be normal again. We then go back to Trump, who you can tell is getting bored about the fact that he's not able to be the one talking the whole time. And he says, since so much is going on, just raise your hand if you want to say something. We'll take a few hands, then get back to getting peace done. So, of course, Doug Burgum raises his hand. Trump calls on him, and he says that Trump used energy diplomacy to bring prosperity to Americans and peace around the world.
If any of y'all have ever bought that thing, let me know if it actually works, because I'm going to be honest, it looks like a cheap piece of plastic that ain't going to do anything that it says it's going to do. Let's keep going.
World. The two conflicts that Trump ran his entire campaign on have not ended yet, and the American people are not paying less for anything, so not quite sure what he means by that. Next up is the drunk, and he says, quote, it is a personal honor to be able to witness the way you lead and negotiate. And then he says, and I don't know if this is true or not, that for fiscal year 2026, they have already met the reenlistment numbers for the Marine Corps that they were hoping for over the entire year. Back to Trump, he says that we're now getting soldiers based on merit and not the woke stuff where anyone can join. Next up is good old JD. He says that Chuck Schumer is a Palestinian and that Trump met a bunch of Israeli allies because he was a New York City real estate developer. He also says that his mom was on WIC, but that's going to get shut down because Chuck Schumer is not doing his job. Next up is Chris Wright. He says the government shutdown didn't begin 8 days ago. It began 8 or 9 months ago at the inauguration. Why, you might ask? He says because every appointee got filibustered until the Republicans went and just changed the rules in the Senate so that they could get them through. Next up is good old RFK Jr. Okay, he says by the time they're done with this, that 95% of the drugs in the U.S. are going to be cheaper than anywhere else in the world. He also is using this as proof. He says that right before he came in this meeting, someone showed him a TikTok video of a woman who was gobbling up Tylenol and being like, F Trump. I swear to God, he said that. He says anyone who takes Tylenol during pregnancy is irresponsible. And then he references 15 rodent studies that show that if you give Tylenol to a pregnant rodent, that it particularly affects the male children they have. Well, yeah, because he's referencing studies, he immediately, as part of this, says, we don't actually have the proof yet, but we're doing the studies to get the proof. So they did that whole thing in September because he said he would have an answer in September with literally admitting here they had no proof. And this one's really insulting. He says that autism is now a national security issue, and then he goes into the whole circumcision thing that I mentioned at the beginning. You probably forgot about that, huh? Last Trump section, he points at a full glass in front of him and says the amount of fluid in that glass is half of the amount that they're putting into children, so at least 32 ounces. He also says that the MMR to be separated out, but that measles already has. He meant to say chickenpox, but he said measles. He said he's not a doctor, but he's studied this for a long time, and in fact, he was talking to RFK Jr. about it 20 years ago, and then he makes again the claim that the Amish have no autism. He says we give 82 different children, and in Germany they only give 28. If you know anything about the Fahrenheit and Celsius conversion, those are interesting numbers for him to choose. Also on cdc.gov, it lists 19 potential vaccines children could have. 18. And oh, by the way, yes, some of those are in multiple doses, but it's nowhere near 82. He says pregnant women should just not take Tylenol and tough it out. He also says that he's been asked to speak at the Knesset. He says that if they want him to come, then he would. And then he says again that he's been asked to speak. He says the hostages have lived in a hell that no one could have ever dreamt of. Had he not lied about his bone spurs to get out of the Vietnam draft, he might have a very different take on that. He also says he has no view on a two-state solution and says that Bibi might go a little bit out of whack, but he's very popular right now. No one should run against him. He also says Abraham Accords again. You knew that was going to come back up after the first time, and that 2020 was rigged. And finally, you have Brooke Rollins. She mentions Biden twice and says that because of Biden, the cost to farmers has gone up 47%. But she says that farmers are about to enter the golden age of America. 10%ers, there you go. I just saved you 60 minutes and a whole lot of headache.
And there we have it, ending on a classic case of humans being feeble. We made it to the end of another episode. You know, if you made it this far, you are an absolute trooper, and you know that we get to do it all over again tomorrow. In fact, no, all over again later on today, in fact. So make sure you come back as usual to join me on the next one. But for now, stay safe, stay well, and stay curious. Until next time.
All right, guys, check it out. Listen. He's got another video that I'm going to cover with y'all. But I need to take a nap. I'm tired, bro. So I'm going to take me a little nap. Then I'm going to come back. And I'm going to record another video for y'all. And we're going to rock and roll. Remember, don't be a hater. Love thy neighbor, baby. All right? I'll catch y'all on the next one. And Nexor, you are God sent, brother. God bless you and the information that you are finding to show everybody. And we'll be covering some more of his content. So if you can't wait to see what he's got to offer, go to his channel and go check it out. I'm trying to record it all before the unthinkable happens and information starts disappearing. So I love you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.